Right. All right. Good morning, everybody. Thanks for coming. Like I said, there's plenty of coffee, lots of fruit. Help yourselves to what we have available. Today we're going to be talking about Nutrition 101. It's a big topic, and when you initially brought it up, I was like, yeah, we can start there, and kind of as we go, if there's specific questions or topics we need to cover, we can do them in other CrossFit and Coffee, since we only have half an hour. But kind of a little bit of background about me, because most of you, everybody here, has met me as Vilma, who does CrossFit. But 10 years ago, 2013, I was over 200 pounds and not working out. So I came from a background of playing soccer my entire life to basically uprooting my life, getting married and moving to Arizona, and I put on a ton of weight. In-N-Out was delicious. I loved In-N-Out burgers. I was in college, and then I went through divorce and all this other stuff, and I was 60 pounds heavier than I currently am now. So when I walked into the doors of a CrossFit gym, I was not this athlete that you see every day in class. I was somebody who was not confident. I was worried that I would mess everything up. I struggled with the same movements that you guys struggle with. I know it's hard to see that now, but I once was the fat girl who walked into CrossFit. Okay, I get it. And if you've known me long enough, since I moved back, in 2015, my weight has kind of yo-yoed all over the place. I've always struggled with food. It's definitely a coping mechanism. I struggle with cravings, things like that. And so for me, I've tried everything. Keto, I've tried paleo, I've tried you name it. The easiest and most consistent for me, this is the fittest I've ever been in my life, has been doing what we're going to be talking about today. When it comes to nutrition, one size doesn't fit all, but this is a good baseline, and then we kind of go from there, okay? So where we're going to start is talking about why traditional diets don't work, trying to understand what nutrient balance is. So what are macronutrients? I had no idea. Again, before I started this journey, I had no idea what any of this was. And what they do in our bodies. Then we're going to talk about zone diet. So what are your ratios? What can you eat? What it looks like to do a traditional day's worth of eating as a zone eater. And then talking about the holistic approach. So a lot of times, our behaviors when it comes to food and exercise are a byproduct of other things going on in our lives, right? So lack of time management, maybe there's a stress component that causes us to stress eat, things like that. So talking about how it's not just about calories in, calories out, but we need to think about the bigger picture of what everything looks like. And then what we currently offer, if that's something that you guys want to do. But that's the very last slide, and I don't really want to talk about that. I want to answer your questions more about nutrition than anything else. So traditional diets typically fail because although calorie restriction is needed, we need a certain number of calories to function. And when we get too far down into depletion, we actually end up putting on weight. So I talked to a client probably about 3 weeks ago. I was like, dude, you're definitely not eating enough. Just like a casual conversation in class, not somebody who's on my nutrition program. I was like, you're eating 1,200 calories a day. There's no way that that's sustainable for you. And for everyone, that number is going to be different. I was like, just add more vegetables and more protein, and in 2 weeks, you'll probably start seeing the number move. She texted me, I want to say it was Wednesday, and she was like, yep, the scale moved 5 pounds. So a lot of times we are depleting our bodies too much. Our bodies hang on to that weight because we're stressing our bodies out. We need to have a good place to where we are at a calorie deficiency, but not so much that we're starving our bodies and we're not able to function or lose weight as our goals and head towards our goal. A lot of improper focus is probably the big one for me. So a lot of people just think of a deficit, or they get too wrapped up in the details, like I had X amount of grams of carbs or X amount of grams of fat, when it's yeah, that's great, but are you taking care of the 6 other things we're going to talk about today? Are you managing your stress levels? Are you making sure you're staying hydrated or sleeping enough? What's your activity level like outside of the gym? Because I love you guys, as hard as these workouts are, they're great for getting fit, but sometimes you need to add additional walking, steady state cardio, things like that. It also becomes mentally difficult and exhausting. So if it's, no, it's the other way. Yeah, I should have just put it on a tripod. So professional. But when eating becomes a sure you guys are not gonna do it, right? If it's constantly restricting, you're not enjoying the flavor profiles, there's no variety, you're gonna be like, why am I doing this shit? I just want a cookie, right? And then misinformation. So this one also is like one. A lot of people think they're eating healthy and they're not. So they're like, oh coach, I had a granola bar before I came to class. That granola bar has 300 calories, primarily carbohydrate calories, and quick ones at that. Or they'll be like, yeah, I had a protein bar after class today. I'm like, that's great, but that's, again, 300 calories. Yeah, you got 20 grams of protein, but like how much energy it takes to break down one little protein bar compared to a meal with that many calories is totally different. So understanding that relationship, how to read labels and how inaccurate sometimes they can be. There's a 25% sway on either side. And getting away from like the shakes, pills, and quick fixes, like right now what's popular is the semaglutide. You guys know the injection that people do? Terrible for you, don't do it. I've had 3 clients go through it and they hate it and they're still withdrawing from that.
What is that?
It's basically a medication that's for diabetics to help with insulin resistance. So it like helps with reducing their cravings. And people realize that if it helps reduce cravings, then that means that I won't eat as much so I can get the injections. Yeah, it's kind of crazy.
I know it, yeah, I know.
Yeah, semaglutide, I think is what it's called. So what are macronutrients? Carbs, fats, and proteins. So they are the nutrients that we need in the largest quantities in our bodies. So we have macro and micro, so micronutrients are vitamins, things like that. Macronutrients are carbs, fats, and proteins. There is not one thing that's bad. There's no bad food, right? It's just bad food, things in wrong quantities, right? So protein is really important, and this tends to be where most people struggle. It helps curb hunger because it takes longer to digest. It helps with building muscle mass, lean muscle fuel, and muscle recovery. Carbohydrates are not bad for you. You just have to make sure that you understand the difference between glycemic load and glycemic index and have them within a ratio that supports health and wellness, not obesity. So it's the source of glucose, which is the body's primary source for energy. Like we are adapted as humans to run off of glycogen stores for our energy system. That's why if you try to go carb-free, eventually you do convert to where you can metabolize fats for your energy, but you're gonna feel like crap for 3 weeks before you get into ketosis. And it's not sustainable because as soon as your body has carbohydrates, it's gonna revert back to here. So that's why like things like keto don't really work well long-term, is because as soon as you have any kind of carbohydrate, any progress that you made in ketosis is immediately taken away. And when people tell me they do keto, if you're not peeing on test strips and checking that you're in ketosis, you're not doing keto. You're just eating a bunch of fat. Love you. There is a difference between simple carbohydrates and complex carbohydrates. So simple carbohydrates, well, let me elaborate. There's glycemic index and load. So the glycemic index is how much a particular food increases your blood sugar. And then index is how fast that happens. So for example, a sweet potato has a high glycemic index, but its glycemic load is low. So it's really great if you're like, for example, competing the next day or in a couple days, and you want a little bit of extra carbohydrate to give your muscles the fuel. For most of us, we're not thinking like that, right? But it'll give you enough energy to last throughout the day, all right? There are other things like sugar, straight up sugar, or fruit that have high glycemic indexes and high glycemic loads. That's okay, but we need to make informed decisions as to when we consume those carbohydrates, right? So in that case, for breakfast or lunch, they're awesome because we are gonna be moving and grooving all day. That blood sugar hit is gonna be high and fast, great for right before a workout, but we don't wanna be eating a ton of fruit at night because we're just gonna go lay down and not burn any of those carbohydrates off, right? So same kind of concept. Fats are also important. They provide energy. They're important for cell growth and regeneration. It's what our cellular membranes are made out of. And if we don't have fats, or if we live in an excess of fats, we actually start having issues with hormone production and regulation. So it's important, like all of these work together. There's not one macronutrient that's bad. It's just we don't put them in the right ratios. So the baseline where we start all of our nutrition clients, this is like just like a one size fits all for most people because it's going to radically change the way that they eat, but also how they see food, is the Zone Diet. It was developed by Dr. Barry Sears. It's very similar to Atkins, but not quite. But it's what CrossFit as a company promotes. When we take our nutrition courses through CrossFit, we talk about Zone Diet, okay? there's a lot of math here. So if you're like, well, how do we get to, I'll get there. So your goal is to get, of your total caloric intake, 30% protein, 40% carbs, 30% fat. But you can't just willy-nilly say, I'm gonna do 2,000 calories. It doesn't quite work like that. So what we do is we do like a body scan. You can get one done here, which we have this thingamajig, or you can go to Steve, it doesn't matter. We get a basal metabolic rate, but what's most important that we get out of that, right, is that we get a lean, or how much of your body is muscle, so your lean muscle mass, right? And that information we use to first calculate your protein requirement. So that's how we get how many grams of protein you should be consuming a day, and that depends on your activity level. I can help you with that if you need it, but once we get what our protein is, then we reverse calculate our carbs and our fats. But the priority here is the protein. And so depending on your goal, if you're trying to gain weight, for example, you're actually gonna see an increase in fat and not an increase in carbohydrates. So Jeff Adler, the guy who won the CrossFit Games this year, he actually follows Zone to a T, except he triples his fats, right? So like, it is a thing. Like this isn't just like some willy-nilly, oh, let's like do this diet. Like a lot of us CrossFit athletes, we do this because it does work. All right, so what can I eat? That's always a question I get when we talk about nutrition. What can I eat? You can eat a lot of stuff, all right? So literally most food items that are natural, unprocessed, or minimally processed and contain no added sugar. So like meat, fruit, bacon, eggs, I don't give a shit. You can eat it. It just has to be in the right quantities, right? Proteins such as eggs, bacon, chicken, ground beef, tofu. We have an option for vegans and vegetarians, so just know that we have that as well. Carbohydrates, we want to stay away from stuff with labels, okay? This one's where it gets a little tricky because a lot of items that have labels have added carbohydrates in the form of added sugars, right? And you can just read the label and kind of get an idea, but we want to keep our carbs as much fruits and vegetables as possible. And if you start this program, you're going to be like, holy shit, this is a lot of food because we are not eating enough protein and healthy carbs. Actually, I'll pull up a picture in a little bit and I'll show you guys what I mean. Fats, so butter, milk, avocado, walnuts, almonds, and cream. But here's what happens. Like your 1 point serving of almonds is like, what, 4 or 6 almonds?
3.
Yeah, it's something small. You guys are cramming down like tons of almonds. So these things are healthy for you, and we're trying to make a step in the right direction, but we're over consuming certain food groups, right? Same thing with peanut butter. 1 point is half a teaspoon. I had somebody walk in who's a nutrition client just dunking in. I was like, wait a second, girlfriend, we gotta measure that shit. Hold on, reel it in. So like we have a recipe guide, they have new ones that came out. So I partnered up, we have the Protein Notes, our client management software, and our website also is like a business coach. I've been with them now for 2 years, 2.5 years. And so I actually was one of their first clients, and I knew them from when I lived in Arizona. And so they do the whole Zone diet stuff. She makes the recipe guides, it makes my life easy, but it's good stuff. She used to compete in bodybuilding. Her name is Erin, and so she's taken the time to make, like every month they release a new recipe guide. So this one's a Chipotle chicken sweet potato sliders, which I made not too long ago. The recipe packs will give you the full breakdown on how much, how to cook, how to put it together, and it'll tell you the overall points for what you cooked, and then you break it down by the number of points that are allotted, and that the points come from that calculation we talked about earlier, okay? So the way she wrote this one is enough for 6 3-point meals. That's a lot of food, so you can meal prep in advance. We're gonna talk about that here in a little bit. All right, this is a typical day's worth of eating for like me. So I'm a 12-point kind of girl, sometimes 13, sometimes 14. For breakfast, typically if I have the time, I'll have 2 eggs, 3 slices of bacon, 1.5 apples, and 1.5 teaspoons of peanut butter. That's breakfast alone. That's probably more than what most of you guys eat like all day, right? For snack, I have 2 cheese sticks and a cup of grapes. For lunch, I usually will do like ground turkey, ground chicken, ground beef, something that I already prepped from the night before. Lettuce, tomato, salsa, and it's a lot of lettuce. Like I buy the bags, the pre-washed bags that are chopped. I just eat the whole bag because I know it's still not enough. Tomato, salsa, red onions, bell peppers, and avocado. My second snack is usually after I train. So I'll do a scoop of protein powder, some strawberries and some almonds. And then for dinner, usually it's some kind of protein, usually something about the size of my hand, as much broccoli as I can eat. Depending on the day, because I am so active, I do add a sweet potato just because I'm here all day. I'm moving and grooving. For most folks, they would not have that complex carbohydrate at the end of the day. So you could just erase that part for most people. It's a lot of food, and it's a lot of good food, right? It's supposed to be not super restrictive. Actually, let me see if I can find the one thing I wanted to show you guys. All right, let me do it this way. Uploads, I'm gonna upload this image we have. So this is kind of where people struggle. I know I sent it to Mickey. Let me see if I can find it. Mickey. So a lot of folks are thinking that they're eating healthy, or maybe they're just not aware of what they're doing. Let's see. Uploaded to library.
You're not eating well.
So I had a conversation with my client. She was like, I don't really eat that much. Why am I not getting to where I want to go? Like, I feel like I barely eat, yada, yada, yada. And this is why. Upload files. Photos. Let's put it inside.
No, you're fine. I'm just trying
This is not wanting to work.
to. No.
Yeah, help yourselves. If you guys want to get a little snack or like fix this really quick. Because I meant to put this in here when I made it and I didn't.
It's too late now.
No, come on, upload.
I wasted a whole pot of coffee this morning.
Close out of it.
You want more?
That should save it. And then let's try this again here. There we go. Okay. So this is the problem that we have. So people are like, well, I don't really eat that much and I'm not losing weight. Do you guys realize that the little muffin on the left has more calories than that entire meal on the right? And that's the problem. So you guys are taking these little sweets and treats and you think you're not being that far off track. You're like, I'm hungry all the time. I swear, like, I really don't eat that much food. But you had 2 of these today. And then your body, how long does it take for your body to metabolize that? Like nothing. It's gonna be in and out of your system within, it's gonna be in and out of your system within an hour. Whereas it mechanically takes energy for your body to break down a meal like this. You're gonna be fuller for longer, right? So this is how we like to eat, and this is without the added, well, there's plain yogurt in here as well. You're gonna be a lot fuller for a lot longer, feel a lot better. Your body's not gonna feel like it's constantly starving and packing on the pounds. That's where most of my clients are coming from. And they might say, well, I only had like 1 Snickers bar. Like, or I just had like 1 treat. I had 1 drink from Starbucks, or I had 1 drink from Dunkin'. Like, fine, go to Dunkin', but like make an informed decision. If you're gonna blow 800 calories on a drink, like at least know what you're putting in your body. You know what I mean? Most people are like, oh yeah, it's only 350 calories, but you had 2 of them that day. That's more than this 1 meal by itself. So that's where a lot of clients struggle, is that they're just not making informed decisions. So we're adding this foundational habits component to our nutrition. So I used to run nutrition challenges like once a quarter. We'd get 10 people. We would meet once a week like this, talk about it, make sure people were in the right direction. It works if the person's dedicated to doing it. It was 50-50. I would say 60-40. Like, Kirsten's a success story. She's down how many pounds now? 50. Yvonne, when she started with me, didn't know how to cook. So like we have people who've been very successful in doing it, right? However, like it's much more complex than just like, let's just meet once a week, because the majority of the reason why my clients fail is because of this stuff. They know what to eat, they understand the concept, but they struggle on the back end, on the habits component. So Quality food, quantity food, hydration, sleep, stress management, and structure, okay? So they're not eating the right types of food. They're gorging on all kinds of other things in the right amount. So they might be eating, almonds, but they're eating the whole jar in one sitting, okay? They're not focusing on hydration. And hydration is not just drinking water. If you're not adding some type of salt to your water, that shit ain't doing what it's supposed to do, just so you know, okay? And you can just add table salt. You don't have to go spend a bunch of money on Element. I personally love Element, and I've been using their product for years. But I'm also somebody who's in here moving and grooving all day long. I have a very active lifestyle. You can add salt water, but that's gonna help that water come in through the cell membranes. It's gonna help you hydrate. These 3 here are the big ones. You guys don't sleep enough. If you're not getting 8 to 12 hours of sleep, you got an issue. I started doing that last year. Holy crap. If I don't get at least 8, forget about it. I'm a hot mess express. But when you don't sleep, it doesn't give your muscles or your body in general time to regenerate. That's when you're at rest. That's when you are supposed to be allowing your hormones to flow. It helps with your cognition, but it also helps with losing weight. Because if you're constant go, you're increasing your cortisol levels, right? Which is your stress hormone. And you're constantly going to be in this fight or flight that's not going to allow your body to come down and release some of that weight. Stress or build muscle too. Like if you're not sleeping and you're trying to get strong in the gym, you need to start sleeping. Like it goes both ways. It's not just for weight loss. Like this stuff is on both sides. Stress management, again, that cortisol, increased cortisol, we're not seeing the results that we're looking for, right? But also for most people, eating behaviors are patterned around stress. I had a bad day, I'm gonna go to Culver's. That's my excuse anyways. I worked so hard today, I just feel like I deserve a candy bar. That's fine, give yourself a treat, but be informed, right? I don't eat perfect. I'm about 80% good, but I want a beer today, and then I had the fries and the burger and the whole thing. Understanding your triggers, that's gonna be important. Because I can't help you when you're mindlessly at home munching because you're bored or stressed out. You guys need to figure out and understand the behaviors and why you're doing them. And then structure, that's the big one. If you don't know what's going on in your day or you're not planning in advance, you're more likely to fail. The biggest excuse I get and it's an excuse, is I just didn't have time. You have time, you just prioritize differently, right? Or maybe you didn't, you can modify and put stuff in a crock pot and it's ready for you. Worst case scenario, when I get out of here, if I don't have anything together for dinner, I will run over to Publix and get a rotisserie chicken and 2 bags of broccoli. You can make up for it. Or, I travel all the time. Guys, they make chicken and seafood entrees that are non-breaded at every major restaurant. They really do. There's no excuse there, right? If you're gonna go bad, be bad, but be informed when you go off the deep end. Don't be like, I really just tried to eat half decent and you ended up consuming 3,000 calories, whereas if you made some informed decisions and then maybe decided to treat yourself at the end of the day, it's more sustainable. Does that make sense? Because you guys are restricting, thinking you're making proper decisions, and then you're like, well, I'm on a diet, I'm not losing weight, I'm gonna give myself a treat because I've been working so hard. Instead, the dialogue should be, I'm eating a balanced meal, I'm within my caloric goals, I'm hitting all my macros. You know what? It's my son's birthday, I'm gonna have a slice of cake and celebrate. And that's more sustainable. You see less burnout that way, okay? I don't expect you to be super strict all the time, but if you're going to make a decision, make it informed, okay? How I'm running this now. So there's different levels. Level 1 is kind of baseline. That's where you guys have been for a while. Devin, you did nutrition too, no?
I'm a broke girl.
It's okay. I made it better this time. So it's doable. Because here's what happens. We would do 6 weeks, and then people would fall off the wagon. So, love you.
I set it on fire.
Yeah, it was bad. I wasn't going to go that deep. But we would do 6 weeks, and I'm like, all right, guys, in 6 weeks, we're going to meet up again. And it was a freaking dumpster fire. And it wasn't just her, it was a lot of people. They have no idea how to get back. That should be your baseline, and it's the accountability. They have no idea how to get there, right? So, I'm not doing that anymore. Because, for me, to bring on nutrition, I love doing it because it's made such a difference in my life. Like I said, I was a fat girl who walked in a CrossFit gym. I get it, right? But we have to do it the right way, and that means I need to guide you guys through maintenance too. So, how it works is all of my programs are a 3-month commitment. End of story. And we'll do 6 weeks of a cut, followed by 6 weeks of maintenance. And then if after that 6 weeks of maintenance, you're like, I think I got this, then you'll have the information, you can run another cut again on your own. You should already know what to do. If you're like, I need help, please, all you gotta do is say, all right, sign me up for the next group, and then you'll be in the next group, okay? It's not gonna be all due up front, and I think that will make it a little bit better for us broke girls. So it's gonna be, I was gonna use Trainerize, but I'm gonna stay with my coach. They actually have some better features now that integrate into my MyFitnessPal. So I'll be able to see your stuff. So how it works, and it's still gonna work this way, you do need to upload photos of your food. It's all in an app. You basically get your meal guides, recipe guides, everything you need. There's content in there. A lot of the content's new, and it centers around the 6 foundational habits, but you have to upload your pictures, and if you have MyFitnessPal, even better. If you're not gonna take pictures, it makes my job hard, because then I don't know what you're doing. Because you might say, well, I only had XYZ, but you look like the picture with the muffin on the left-hand side, right? So I can't help you, and I can't hold you accountable if you don't put your pictures in, right? And if you're like, well, I'm not seeing results, and you're not putting in your pictures, I'm gonna be a jerk and say, well, how am I supposed to help you, right? I can't help you, you gotta help me help you. Our group coaching, I'm gonna change the way that works. So all of my programs are 6. I do one-on-one and group. So Venus, Katie, Hope, and I just picked up one more client are on one-on-one. If you haven't seen Katie, Katie's down 20 pounds. She looks great. The photographer, if you guys remember who she is. But I have one-on-one and group coaching. Group coaching, we have a defined start and end date. We have to meet. It's gonna be either Mondays, virtually at 7, so I'll go home, log onto my laptop, and then we talk. But it's gonna be virtual so that Saturdays were too hard for people to come into. It just does not work. So it needs to be a day that most people can come in the evening so that I'm not coaching, and we can get on, we talk about it, but each week is gonna have a different topic that we're gonna talk about, okay? All content has been updated, and it will be a mini seminar on a different topic. So understanding cravings, understanding stress management. It'll essentially be something like this, and then a Q&A session should be about half an hour. So instead of being like, all right guys, how was your week, right? There's gonna be a self-assessment that you guys will submit through the app every week. And I'm gonna go through your self-assessments on Sunday, because that's when they drop, and they need to be done by Monday. Or I think they drop on Saturday, and they need to be done by Sunday. From there, I can kind of hold you guys accountable, but it's not going to be like, well, what are you struggling with? What are you struggling with? Blah, 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 blah. What recipe did you try? It's going to be more like, okay, guys, this is the topic for this week. We're going to talk about how to manage our time better, some quick ways to get our recipes in for the week. Or talking about, join hobby, how you guys need to have that. You need to spend time in nature. All those foundational pillars that we don't really talk about. So that's how that's going to change. It's going to be basically a mini seminar once a week. One-on-one coaching you can attend the group ones if you want, but we have a separate time that we meet. So I usually will FaceTime Katie, and she comes in once a month. Same thing with Hope, she'll come in, we go over everything. So there's a whole questionnaire, we talk about stuff. With my one-on-one coaching, it's a direct line of access, so you will text me your photos. It's a little bit different, because then I'll see your shit and I can be on you that day. I only have 1 spot left in that. And the group coaching is $100 a month for 3 months. I would like to maybe start 11/6. It just depends. I know that's around the corner, but especially with the holidays being around, I feel like that accountability I might be able to stretch it out 1 more week. We'll see. I might be able to stretch it out. But ideally we'd meet virtually every Monday at 7. All right. My one-on-one coaching, I know it says 2, I already sold 1. And that's $150 a month for 3 months. And that, you can set your own time, your own thing. My level 2s, if you feel like you're ready to take that step, that's when we get into level 2 stuff or macro stuff. So once you guys graduate from this, you basically go into level 2, and then there's level 3. Level 2 is a little bit more restrictive in terms of your protein sources. So it's what I live kind of at level 1, and then when I'm trying to cut or get ready for comps, I'm at level 2 or level 3. Level 3 is when we really start breaking down macronutrient profiles and talking about competitive, like how to carb cycle, things like that. That would be here. So if you have questions, let me know. I'm happy to do another one on nutrition if you guys have additional questions, but that's kind of the gist of how it works. We follow Zone. You can Google it. There's plenty of shit online about Zone. CrossFit has a great library of things that talk about what Zone Diet is. If you feel like you need more accountability, then we do have a program for that. And I'm only going to do 10 spots for the group coaching and only have 1 spot left for the individual. All right? Do you guys have any questions for me? No? Too much information? It's a lot. That's why I said I don't know how much I'm going to get through today. But yes, so if you want to be on board with either one of these, just see me. We'll get you guys set up, and then we'll go from there. Any questions? You guys are really quiet. All right. Well, I know, right? Well, there's plenty of coffee. So thanks for joining. And then with the group coaching, if you decide to do that, like, I need to know as soon as possible because I haven't advertised it yet, and it's one of those things that, like, it will probably fill up. The one-on-one will fill up. I don't know who's going to take the last spot, but yeah. And I would like to do this more sustainably throughout the year, so I'm hoping that this one will kind of kickstart things off, and then we can get people back on nutrition because I haven't really done nutrition probably since this time last year. It's just been it's too hard. It's too hard to be on people's ass all the time when you're not sending me pictures. So that's gonna be like the rule. You gotta send the pictures. I can't help you if you don't help yourself. All right? All right. Well, we're gonna get started